Welcome to the Block Party. My name is Seth Kushner. Today, I am joined by a man who is still on his 2011 heater. I think he could get out there and make 45 saves tonight if he had to. A former Bolt, former Islander, played a long time in the NHL. Dwayne Roloson. Rolly, how you doing?
Doing great, Seth. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. Listen, just right off the bat, tell me 2011. What'd you think that year? You were playing great. You were playing for the Islanders, who I think were a bottom five team. Were you content just playing great hockey for a bad team, or were you hoping that they would get you out of there?
Yeah, it was one of those things. I enjoyed my time in Long Island, and we we were a good team, but we weren't a great team, and we lost a lot of games by one goal, and it was frustrating. And I'm getting towards the end of my career, and I wanted a chance to play in playoffs, and sure enough, I didn't even have to go in to talk to Garceau at the time. He just made a trade. I think Izzy at the time had called Garth and was looking for a goalie. And I think January 1st was the day we were on the road out in Calgary and get a phone call and said, you're been traded to Tampa. So off I went. And so it was great. I knew some guys down here already, Nate Thompson and Marty St. Louis at the time, and Stammer a little bit. So it was good coming in, and, felt comfortable right away, and just went off.
Did you have any idea that you had that run in you that happened in 2011, that you would get here to this new team and help? But they were struggling. I think was Mike Smith was here, and there was a couple like Desjardins was there. I think there was a couple of other guys that were here, and you really helped seal the deal and get the team over the top that year.
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect when I talked to Izzy coming in. He just said, things have not been going well for us in the goaltending department, and no slight on Mike Smith and Dan Ellis, who were there at the time, who I knew both well coming in, and just things weren't working out. And coming in, it's fresh eyes, fresh person. So I just came in and Guy just said, it's your net. And so I just went and played and tuned out anything that was going on before that, and just went and played. And for us as a team, we gelled really well and really quick. And Steve made some transactions towards the end of not probably about a month after I got there, about a month before deadline time, and brought in Eric Brewer, uh, Marc-Andre Bergeron, and a few other guys to help us. And sure enough, we went on a run.
Dwayne, what's it like now? I know that you're back. You're living in Tampa now, right? What decided to finally bring you back here?
Seth, it's a long story. I don't know if we get enough time on the podcast.
Okay, all right.
But with Canada being shut down, my kids were playing junior hockey out in BC, and uh, their league got shut down pretty much. And my oldest is committed to Lake State, and they wanted them to play some hockey this year. So we moved down to the U.S. They were both playing in Minot, North Dakota, and my wife and we had to get back anyways. So we're deciding, depending on where the kids were playing last year, we're either going to do Arizona or Florida. And with them going to Minot, it was a no-brainer to come back to Tampa. And we pretty much we bought about a mile from where we lived down in Tampa when we played there. So it's in Hunter's Green, so it's a great location, and know a lot of people there, a lot of friends still in that area. So it was a pretty smooth transition.
Okay, I want to know. Obviously, you played for a lot of teams, Islanders, Lightning. I got to ask you this kind of right off the bat: who are you rooting for, or do you watch hockey differently and just watching from a goalie's perspective?
I'm not rooting for anybody. I haven't rooted for anybody since I think it was 18. Since I was, growing up in Ontario. You're a Leafs fan, right? So um, having a heartache every year. July 1, everyone in Canada wants the Leafs are winning the cup with all the free agents signings. So since about 18, I haven't really rooted for a team. I just love watching hockey. From a France perspective, I don't get up or down if my team loses or wins, or I like the skill in the game right now, and I like what the goalies are doing, and it's a fun game, an exciting game to watch. So for me, I'm just watching everybody that I can, and my boys. I got a Nashville fan, I got a Dallas fan, so that's always fun. And so last year in the finals, I had one guy he was sort of caught torn in between rooting for Stammer or rooting for Dallas. So it was a tough one, right? But it's good. It's makes us as a family be able to chat, and I keep my eyes on those two teams because they always ask me questions. And now my youngest lived in Edmonton for a couple of years, so with McDavid being in his backyard watching them, and he likes to watch them and him and Draisaitl as well. So and Smitty's there, so he gets to see Smitty every once in a while when he goes to the rink. So it's nice for him to be able to see him as well.
Yeah, that's incredible that Smitty's still playing, man. He had just a really rough go of it early on in Tampa. They were really riding him, and I just never thought that, like, 15 years later, the guy would still be in the league. I just thought the way that he played, I was just getting into hockey at the time, so I was like, wow, look at Mike Smith coming out to center ice to clear the puck and all this stuff. Like, I like how aggressive he is, but I could see how that wasn't the perfect style at the time. Dwayne, when you came here, they made it. This was 10 years ago. I think I'm 29. You come here, you're 41. They're making it seem like you're 75 at the time. I mean, when you show up and you're playing, and you're now, when I interview some of these guys now, they look like they're going to be the Backstreet Boys. They feel very young. Did you feel 41 when you showed up to the Lightning, or when you were playing that year?
No, not at all. The thing is too, like for me, I went to college route, so I didn't turn pro until I was 24, 25. And with my career the way it was, like when I was in Buffalo, I think I played 14 games in 2 years playing behind Hasek, right? So my body wasn't really beat up as much as Marc-Andre Fleury right now. Look at him, like he's been in the league since he's 18 and played a lot of games year in and year out. So my body didn't have that wear and tear on it early in its career. It got it towards the end of its career, but with what I did off ice with my strength and condition guy, Scott Prohaska. Actually, that's where my oldest guy is right now in California with him, training with him. And, we did a lot of stuff to strengthen strong, small muscles around big joints and which helped me later on in my career and allowed me to play a lot. And pretty much besides the one big injury, never really had any injuries when I played. So it was great.
The guys didn't have, like, Hetty and Stam were very young guys at the time. They didn't have any bad nicknames for you, did they?
Probably can't say it on the podcast, but I was all over Hetty all the time because he'd come in and shoot and he'd miss the net and break out for the other team. And like, Hetty, come on, or hit the net or keep it down. So I was always on Hetty, rode Hetty pretty hard. And I think it paid off. He's doing pretty good now. I don't know. But,
I'm hearing it right now. You're responsible for Hedman's success. I mean, somebody had to be.
Yeah, well, I think Matisse Olin was pretty responsible. Big part of that. Philly countryman and older guy who'd been around a long time and played a lot in the league. And so we got Victor when he was really young and was able to teach him to be a pro, and it was great. And Stammer at that point, he'd probably already played 4 or 5 years in the league, even though he was still young, right? So he was pretty well off, set in his career at that point. So and all those guys they're young, but they played enough and they learned a lot, and they weren't shy to ask questions. Like, hey, well, how can I do this? Hey, how can I do that? Like, remember my last year, Stammer scored 60 that year, and we're goofing around with something. And I said, Stammer, you're not getting flat pucks anymore, and you're not shooting. That's why you haven't scored any power play goals. And we started doing this one drill, call them knuckle pucks. I was throwing them bad passes, and they're all wobbling all over. And first time we did it, I think he hit the net once out of 20. And by the end of it, he was picking corners, like top right, top left, bottom left. And he scored his 50th that year with a puck on end, and his 60th that year with a puck on end. But, that's a guy that's willing to do whatever it takes to have success and not afraid to do weird things or things outside the box to have success.
Dwayne, that's fascinating. And I haven't had a goalie. This is the 70th episode I've done of this block party. And I've had, I think one goalie on, Bobby the Chief Taylor, and they didn't even play with helmets back then. So it's fascinating to hear that you can help some of these guys grow in practice. I never even thought about a goalie. And I know that you're doing some coaching now. When did you decide, like, hey, I like helping these guys. I love being the ultimate teammate. I want to continue coaching when I'm done playing, or I want to coach when I'm done playing?
Yeah, I just think it was, it's something that just being around the game again. As soon as I had retired, I got into coaching in the minors in Norfolk, Virginia, which was the Lightning's farm team before I went there. So they moved up to Syracuse. So it was with the Anaheim Ducks farm team, and then I moved to Anaheim with them. And then both my kids decided to leave home and go to boarding school, and I'd missed enough of their career and their lives when I was playing. So I was like, you know, I don't need to do this and I don't need to be away from my family anymore. And so now it's the other time. They're growing up. One's going off to university, the other one's going to be playing his second year junior, and they're out of the house again. So it's like now I have some time. So I want to get back as much as I can. And if I can get back in the pro game, then I will. But right now I just want to be able to help out whoever I can and whenever I can, and just keep on moving forward.
Now, Dwayne, you seem kind of calm. What kind of hockey dad are you? Would you ever go out there and try to choke a referee or meet a ref in the parking lot or a coach or anything like that? Or are you pretty calm out there when your kids are playing?
I'm usually pretty calm, unless there's liberties being taken. There's been a couple incidents this year where I was a little irate at the refs, but for the most part, I watch on hockey TV. I don't get to see too many games live, so I can uh, I can be rude and obnoxious and all that in my living room. But when live, I'm usually pretty quiet. And there's one time that I did yell this year that guy ran my youngest from behind pretty bad and went at his head, targeted his head, and there was no call on the play. And I'm like, you got to be joking me, one of these things. So, but other than that, I'm usually pretty calm and try to be. It's there's not much I can do sitting in the stands. So.
That's true. That's true. I always like to hear what kind of former players, what kind of hockey dads they turn into. Talk to me about Vazzy right now. A lot of people are calling him the best in the world. We have the great honor of watching him night in and night out. What makes Vazzy different when you watch him? What separates him from some of the other goalies here that walk this earth?
Just his movements. It's everyone talks about the game, how it's evolved and how it's changed, and goaltending has itself. When like you said, Chief was playing, they never went down. They never wore masks. They never went down. Now goalies are down all the time, and they go down first. But when people are teaching goalies today, they forget to teach how to move, and it's like building a house. If you can't move, you can't stop a puck. If you don't have a foundation, you can only go so high in a house, right? So his movements allow him to have the success that he does. You get from point A to point B quick, and that's the key. If you can move, you're going to have success, and then all the other tools that go with it. His, we call it tracking. His, a lot of people call it different things, but keeping his eye on the puck and being able to see release points and have an understanding of what the player's trying to do. When you think about it, you want to think the puck carrier, you want to look at what's his next best play. Is it a shot or is it a pass? And then read and react. His reading skills are pretty high, and that's what's allowing him to have success. And you got to give his teammates a lot of credit too. I always say that, and I'm sure Vasky, I don't know him at all, but would say the same thing. Like his teammates really do a lot for him. Clear the front of the net out and allow him to see pucks and make his job a lot easier. And the D are saying the same thing. He allows them to take risks. He allows Hetty to take risks because he knows that he's going to make a save for him. So it's just one of those things that it's a team effort, and there's individual rewards and awards, but at the same time, it's a team success all the way through.
What percentage of playing goalie would you say was mental for you?
About 99.9% of it. It is a lot of mental stress, right? The players can have a bad shift and go sit in a bench and take a break, have some water or whatever, look across the rink and see mom and dad or their wife or their girlfriend, and sort of zone out. as goalies, we don't get that opportunity. We make a mistake, somebody throws on a red light, and you usually have 18,000 people either cheering you or booing you at the same time. And so anytime you make a mistake, it's still definitely ramped up and escalated. And for us as humans and as individuals, you got to be able to sort of forget about it. And when I'm talking to younger kids and they're wanting to play the game, I'm like, you have to have amnesia if you play the sport. Whether you do something great or something bad, you got to forget about it right away, because the next shot is the most important one. It's not the one that just happened. It's not the big save you just made or the bad goal you just let in. It's the next shot. And that's a compounding effect all the way through 60 minutes or 65 or like last year, five overtime periods and 3 or 8 periods of hockey. So it's mentally tiring and mentally frustrating at times, but that's a key point.
I don't want to say back then because it wasn't that long ago, but this is such like a new thing, mental health. Did they have a sports psychology? Did you have somebody to talk to when you were playing, or was that not available back in the day?
We didn't have in Tampa, we didn't have a mental coach or mental person with us. But it was weird. Like when I first turned pro and with Calgary's organization back in '94, we had a guy there. And it's the first I ever heard of it. And I think Calgary was one of the first teams that ever had one. And his name is Maxi, and he was just more of a guy to talk to. It wasn't really any type of coaching or tools or anything. And that year I was in the minors. Our goalie coach at the time, Bill Hughes was his name. He just said, "Hey, here's a small book I want you to read." So I read the book and I took some things out of the book. It was a psychology book. I took some things out of the book and I use that today. Even when I'm teaching my guys, the guys in like Freddie Anderson in Toronto, he uses it, uses the tools that I was using, and he sort of put it into his game. And when I'm teaching my clients and my young guys that, here's a couple things that you can put into your game that allow you to have success, on and off the ice. And they're very simple and very easy to put into your game. Some of these things you get outside and, like with goaltending, you let in a bad goal, you don't have much time, with maximum it's a minute, 30 seconds. You might have two or 3 minutes if it's getting reviewed to be able to mentally reset for that next play. And so you got to have something that's quick, and you got to be able to snap yourself back into the now and be able to stay focused. So there's a lot of tools that you can use, but you got to have something that you can use and that's going to take effect immediately. You can't wait.
That's a good answer. I appreciate that. Can you tell me, I feel like I would have this dream if I was a goalie. It'd be a recurring nightmare. Those 1 or 2 seconds when you're not able to find the puck, is there any bigger panic that you feel as a goalie, or are you just completely calm in those moments?
Externally, it looks like you're panicking, but internally you're just like, okay, where is it? I got to find it. Okay, where's the best? I have fun with my guys. I call it the Hunger Hippo game. It was a game that I had as a kid. Most of the kids don't know it now because it's not out there anymore.
Oh, I just got it for my daughter.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. But that's what you're trying to do, and when you're trying to cover the puck, and then I give it to the guys so they can't find it. And I was like, stop trying to catch mice down there. Let's Hungry Hippo, just put it over. But it looks chaotic, but you're actually trying to minimize movement but also cover as much net as possible to find a puck. And when it's chaotic, it's like, all right, anybody see it? And there's a lot of communication going on, and believe it or not, guys are talking in there. It looks like mad chaos, but it's a little organized chaos. It's a lot of communication. I got it. It's over here. Heads up. that stuff going on in there.
Do people trash talk the goalie, or would they leave you alone for the most part?
Uh, there's a lot of guys that will, a lot of guys that don't. Uh, Playing as long as I did, you got a lot of rivalries, but also a lot of friends, and so it's always fun. Most of it's uh, banter between one another and joking around. Remember when I was in Edmonton, Corey Perry was sitting on me in my crease. The play already went down the other end. Like, hey, Paris, what's going on? How's your parents? Oh, they're good. Just hanging out, and this he's sitting on me in my crease, so I couldn't move. And some of that stuff goes on, and it's a lot of fun. Like when you reminisce and talk to guys. Like when I started coaching in Anaheim, they Corey went up to my boys in the locker room, was like, "Hey, your dad tell you about Edmonton and like what I used to do to him." And so it's good for the kids to hear that. But it's a lot of fun. And yeah, there is you know Patty Maroon was in Anaheim when I was there. I know he's was voted the best mic'd up guy, right?
Yeah.
Because of all his chirps and all that stuff. But Patty's one of those guys. He's a big teddy bear, right? He loves to chirp guys and he likes it back. And it's just he's he's built for that, and he's
Even
designed for that mentally, because he just loves to chirp guys and he loves to hear it back, and it gets him in his game. A lot of guys go ahead.
Dwayne, even back then, even when he was a much younger guy, he would chirp all the older guys.
Oh yeah, he would like to chirp, but guys would give it right back to him. I was like, what are you doing out here? You shouldn't be out here, and stuff like that, right? It's fun. That's a side of the game that I think the NHL is doing a great job promoting our game, because those things, without the sound and the audio bites and all that stuff, you couldn't get that in the game. So I think it sort of brings personality out of the players in the league now, and there's a lot of it that goes on, and most of it's all fun, right? Guys are chirping one another and having fun with it all, and that's the best part about the game. Like when you retire, it's not the game you miss. It's the jabs, the chirps, the locker room, the on ice communication between players and referees. Even I get to see the referees a lot, and linesmen a lot. So you get to talk to them. You get to talk to them as a person, right? And I used to get a little fired up at times, and Devo would come down and was like, "Rolly, I'll come down next whistle." Like he'd just let me vent, and then he'd come and talk to me and say, "Hey, what's going on? How's family?" And just stuff like that, right? So just totally diffuse it. But that's the game that the fans don't see, and that's the best part about the game that as players love to play, and that's the reason why we do it.
Now, here's something a lot of fans talk about when a goalie might be having a rough night, or the backup goalie's in there. And I don't know if this is something that actually happens with the team, but it goes, that goal, that's not the goalie's fault. That's a defenseman's fault. That's somebody else. Like, what percentage of goals did you feel like fell on you? Was it 100%, or would somebody scoring you sometimes and you're like, I couldn't do anything with that?
I can't say 100%, because things happen in a game and teams make good plays. Sometimes it's a tic-tac-toe play that you have no chance on, but for me, I took pride in when I got scored on. I looked internally first. I didn't look outward. And I remember in Minnesota, Nick Schultz was our D man. I hate to throw this out there on you, Schultz, but Schultz scored five goals on me that year. Not once did I blame him for any of the goals. Like, he's trying to prevent the puck. It goes off a stick, off a skate, and in the net. It's like, what can I say? He's trying to help me, and on bad break, it goes in the net. And, for me, like, I never tried to, something bad happened and ended up in our net, and I've never pointed a finger. I didn't want to point a finger, and that's not being a good team guy. It's, as a goalie, you're the only one that can stop it, but at the same time, there's 5 other guys on the ice as well to stop it. But I never looked at that. I looked at myself first, and then when I did video or whatever else, is like, there's not much I can do on it, right? But realistically, it's probably about 90-95% that's that is in your control, and there's 5 or 6 that are that's out of your control.
Reflecting on your career, made a ton of saves, had people score on you. Is there a moment where you go, you know what? It was kind of cool that either that guy scored on me or I made a save on that guy. I got to compete against them. Do you have any of those when you're reflecting on your career?
Yeah, I just think obviously I didn't play much against Lemieux, but yeah, your Gretzky and you know Wayne was at the end of his career, and I played against his brothers growing up, and so I knew the family, and like they lived about a half an hour away from us. So, playing against them, I don't think Wayne ever scored on me, which is nice, and only had an assist or something like that. So that was always nice. That's always a good thing to remember. But I just think it's not even the highlights, or it's the teammates that you and the friendship that you've made all the way through your career. And I had a few stops and a lot of great memories in every location. And so it's those are the things that you look back on. And yeah, obviously with the '06 run in Edmonton, there's been with their push this year for the playoffs and how their team had success. There was a lot of reminiscing going on, and did a couple podcasts like this and Zoom calls about the '06 run. And so you get those times, but it's more about the friendships that you had all the way through your career, and the stops that you made. And as much as my kids hated it, they love it now that they've lived at a lot of different places, and they've had the opportunity to meet friends in a lot of different places in North America. And now it's like we went back to Tampa, and now they have friends there, and it's like they haven't seen each other in 10 years, that they talk, but so it's easy for them now. But with them growing up is a little tougher. But now they can go into almost any locker room in the NHL and say, "Hey, Stammer, hey, Eddie, hey, whoever, like Edmonton, hey, Smitty, how you doing? What's going on? Long time no see." And my son's training out in California, and Freddie Anderson's out there. It's, "Hey, Freddie, how you doing?" And so it's made their lives a little bit easier now. But it's just the friendship, like I said, that's the key thing, and that's what everybody misses. And the plane rides, the hotel jokes, and everything, all the jokes you make in the locker room. And then also the trainers that in Tampa you got Razor and Mike and Tommy and Bubba. Those are the guys that are the cornerstone of every team, and they're the guys that have everyone's superstitions down, and they know when to talk to guys and when not, when to chirp them. And those guys are the guys you miss. I still talk to Razor a little bit, but and Tommy a little bit. So you don't I try not to bug them too much, but it's always nice to reach out and say hi, how's it going, and all that stuff. So
What were your superstitions back in the day?
well, I just I always had a towel. Once you go out for warm-ups, there's a towel in your stall. I just leave my stall alone during the game, because I blow my nose on the towel. I don't want the trainers to pick it up and go type of thing. So so I just leave my stall. That's the only thing I want. And other than that, I'll just be on my own. So everything was good that way. And everyone says goalies are weird, or obviously everyone gets dressed the same way. It's just a routine. I don't think it's superstition. It's just natural. Like, it's, you close your eyes and you get dressed. You do the same thing every day when you get up. But other than that, it was just a towel. That was the only thing that I was more concerned that somebody was going to grab it and get germs than not. So
Is there still one save that you made in your career that you still feel every single day, or you felt for a long time, or has all those shots and saves worn off now?
Yeah, I don't feel anything. The only thing that I remember is a lot of it, like I said, with the amnesia part of it, our run in 2011, run in '06. I don't really remember. I remember a lot of it, but I cannot say, well, this point of the game, so because you're in the zone and you're just so focused on the next play. You can't remember what happened in the past. And but the Edmonton series against San Jose, save on Chichu in double overtime was probably one save that I remember still to this day. And there's a lot of pictures that I got autographed or signed, and with that save. So it's just like it always comes back, and it was a rewarding save. I think Cheech had scored 50 plus that year during regular season. I think he won the Rocket Richard that year. So that to me was probably one of the best saves, or ones that stand out for me, or that I can remember anyways.
Dwayne, listen, man, I know you didn't have a long time playing for the Lightning, but you are a Tampa Bay Lightning legend. We always bring you up when we reflect on some of the goalies that have been here in the past. And I'm glad you're living back in Tampa Bay, man. I know that you're not going to root for anybody, but hopefully deep down, you're rooting for our Bolts to pull through against these Islanders and these next couple of games as we record this. Dwayne, thanks a lot, man. Really enjoyed the conversation and the stories.
Yeah, thanks, Seth. I appreciate it. Anytime you need anything, let me know.